I'm here today to talk to you about is potential career opportunities within the Defence Forces. I'd like to welcome my colleagues there as well, Phil Molloy from the Naval Service and Mark McLoughlin from the Air Corps as well. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to the Defence Forces. Moving on then I'll talk about the cadetships in general and then general service recruitment as well. The guys then will get up and give their specific briefs regarding the career opportunities and the potential for personal development within the three different branches, Naval Service, Air Corps, and then finally I'll get up and talk about the Army again, and hopefully we'll have a couple of minutes then for questions after. Okay, so as an introduction, the Defence Forces and Military of Ireland, we encompass the Army, Naval Service and Air Corps. The Army is a standing force and provides military capability here on Ireland and then overseas as well. So a lot of the multinational UN peacekeeping missions that are redeploying, and it is mainly the Army that do it. We do have support from the Navy and Air Corps as well for specialist appointments and roles overseas. The Naval Service is the state's principal seagoing agency with a general responsibility to meet contingent and actual maritime defence requirements. It is tasked with a variety of defence and other roles, including operations within the Mediterranean as well. And then the role of the Air Corps under the Defence Act is to contribute to the security of the state by providing military air defence of its airspace. So that's just a kind of brief introduction as to what we do and how we do it and who does it. So what I'll talk to you about now is the officer cadetships. So within each of the service there are unique and special cadetships available. These are for people who want to become leaders and decision makers and key influencers within the organisation. So within the Army then we have Army Line, which is what I would have done. It basically, you're trained to go into one of the service corps, and then you will also work in Defence Force headquarters, potentially in policy making or controlling accounts, subheads, etc. We also have Army Engineers, so we do look specifically for people with engineering backgrounds, level 8 degrees in engineering. And within that, they will get the opportunity to complete a cadetship like I would have done, but then go on to specialise within the engineering corps in military engineering and then also barrack and infrastructures engineering. Again, they're vitally important to the organisation, as once we deploy overseas, it is them that maintain and ensure that the camp meets the standards required by the United Nations and also by ourselves as a standing force. Army Ordnance cadetships then are also available. These are the people who you'd hear dealing with EOD and bomb disposal here on Ireland. They also maintain and upgrade our equipment and weapons as needed. And finally, as the government has asked us to do, we also promote the Irish horse and the horse racing industry and show jumping in particular by providing Army equitation cadets as well. So all people with an interest in equitation can apply for this. They have to meet a standard of quality in terms of their show jumping and potential, and again they're used to promote the Irish horse and the equine industry in Ireland. The Naval Service then have three different types: Naval Operations Branch, which Phil will talk about a little bit later, Marine Engineering and Electrical Engineering, and finally Mark then will talk specifically about the Air Corps and the Air Corps Pilot Cadetship. So for the cadetships then, on the left hand side you'll see the selection process and then the qualities that will be assessed at each of these processes. So again, before anyone actually interacts or meets with the Defence Forces, they'll conduct psychometric testing online to determine your level and your standard. If deemed successful, you move on then and you'll conduct a fitness test, group assessment and realistic job preview all in one day. For the Air Corps that's in Baldonnel, for the Navy it's down in Haulbowline in Cork, and for the Army it's in the Defence Forces Training Centre in Curra Camp, County Kildare. If successful through all those stages, you'll then move on to the interview stage. With the interview then you'll be in front of a panel and they will again assess you in a little bit more detail on your the qualities required for a cadetship. And finally, if successful, you'll be called for medical, and after that then the offers will be, if successful, offers will be given to candidates. So I'll just give you a second there just to read the cadet qualities, and again if you have any questions regarding any of these at the end, please feel free to ask. Okay, so for those who don't want to become officers or cadets, we also have general service enlistment. So what we're looking for, motivated, physically fit, team orientated individuals to enlist as general service recruits. Okay, so these people are the main component of our organisation. They're the soldiers, they're the sailors, and they're the aircrew that we require to conduct our operations. Applicants should have the ability to work in a disciplined military environment, work with others in a team, and ability to work in a high pressure and physically demanding environment. Be willing to serve abroad for extended periods of time, and unfortunately for some people there are age limitations as well. So be a minimum of 18 years of age, under 25 for the Army and under 27 for the Navy. Again, the Air Corps is the same as the Army as well. Okay, so now I'll hand you over to Lieutenant Phil Molloy, who'll talk a little bit about the Naval Service.
Okay, so the roles and responsibilities of the Naval Service. Okay, so as I've already said, we're the principal seagoing state agency. So the responsibilities: maritime defence, which is obviously the defence of the Irish EEZ and the Irish waters. This then extends out to the likes of fisheries protection. Obviously, fishermen have quotas. We need to make sure they adhere to these quotas. Contraband interdiction duties. So this could be anything from cigarette smuggling, alcohol, other narcotics, drugs, etc. Search and rescue operations. So the Naval Service will be involved in multiple search and rescue operations throughout the course of the year. This could be very small vessels in distress, such as yachts, etc. Or it could be maybe small pleasure craft that have lost power in their engines. If the weather gets a bit rougher than some were expecting, they might get stuck in it. They mightn't be in a vessel that's equipped to handle weather like that. Or it also could be people out commercial diving, so forth. Okay, so we also have to enforce the Irish and EU laws and the Irish EEZ. So the EU laws are across the board for all countries in Europe. So it's our job to enforce them for the waters that we lay claim to. Okay, so some basic facts about the Irish Naval Service. As Conor said, we're located in Haulbowline, Island, County Cork. We have an establishment for 1,094 persons, and at the moment we have a fleet of 9 ships. So our area of operation. Obviously, the predominant area of operation will be around the coast of Ireland. So that would be out south of Ireland from Cork and then up the east and west coast, and we also do patrol around Northern Ireland too. Our other area of operation at the moment is down in the Mediterranean, so south of Italy and off the coast of Libya, and I'll talk more about that now in a second. Okay, so the general service career progression. So we have courses for specialised training, so if people do choose to come through, whether that be as a recruit or as a cadet, you can do more courses when you get in there. So medics will be the first one, and obviously when you're on a ship, you can't really call a doctor or an ambulance. If anything happens on board, you need someone who's qualified and professionally trained on board to deal with whatever situation may arise. Okay, so we also have cooks. So you have 2 or 3 cooks on board, depending on the size of the ship. If you're down on a Mediterranean foreign deployment, you could be talking up to 60 crew on board. So then you might have 3, maybe 4 cooks. For the smaller ships, when you're talking 40 or 42 personnel, you could have 2 cooks on board. Naval diver, so they would be the specialised unit that we have, which would be naval diving, so they would be on standby the whole time. They'd be a very professional naval diving team. We'd have 2 divers on board every ship, and they would also be on call out for any local emergencies from Haulbowline. Okay, so transport drivers, so obviously we need a transport service as well. So this would range from military jeeps and vehicles up to buses and even up to trucks. Okay, physical training instructors, so if people have an interest in PT, obviously you'll have your gym, you'll have your dietitian, your nutritionist. That's another route that you can go. You'll be sent to college, and then you'll also finish off the course in the DFTC and the Curra camp. So that qualifies you to be a PTI, which means you will run fitness testing annually. Also sea survival instructor. So I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of the National Maritime College of Ireland. That's a college based down in Ringaskiddy, where they have some absolutely magnificent resources and facilities. Basically, they have a big 25-metre pool, and they can make waves, wind, they'll turn off the lights, they'll flash to make it look like thunder and lightning, and they have sprinklers, so it's like rain. So they put you into a life raft down there, you learn your drills so that it's second nature to you. God forbid, if you ever did have to use that skill set at sea, and they'll make it very, very realistic. Okay, so we also have technical professions and trades. So if people want to join and come in general enlistment as a recruit, they can go off and do a trade. So this trade covers, but it's not limited to electrical artificers, so an electrician, engine room artificers, which would look after the heart of the ship, the engine, hull artificers, which is a carpenter, radio and radar technicians, which is an RRT. So that would be a very technical role, and you'll be sent to college in UCC in Cork for 4 years for that one, and also IT support technicians. Okay, so just to talk a little bit now about officers' career progression. So as Conor said a while ago, there's 3 different branches: ops, marine engineering and electrical engineering. So myself, I'm operations branch, so I joined and I was sent to the National Maritime College of Ireland, where I completed a 3.5-year level 8 course in nautical science. So that would also qualify me to work on the likes of very large container vessels, cruise ships, oil tankers, so on and so forth. So that's the degree we do, and that's what it's in line with. As for the engineers, they'll start off their training in CIT, Cork Institute of Technology, and then they will come to the National Maritime College for the last 2 years, and that will qualify you to be a marine engineer on board a ship. And if you are the marine engineer on board the ship, you are the man, you are the main man. So a very, very technical, very professional appointment. And we also have electrical engineering branches. So one of our ships, the Elietna, which is the flagship of the Navy, that has an appointment for an electrical engineer, and the rest would work down in weapons electrical unit, so looking after the sea fire systems and the weapons on board ships. Okay, so the basic cadetship would run over a 21-month period. So your first 3 months will be spent in the DFTC, where the Air Corps, Army and Navy would all train together. And that's just to give you a very basic grounding in what the military is, so that you can learn the fundamental skills that you'll need to go on to become a very efficient and effective officer. Okay, so after the first 3 months is up, you move down to Hall Bowling, and that would be when you would start the naval side of things. So it gives you a very good grounding in what the Navy is, what we do, the skills that you will need to pick up if you are to become a very effective engineer or operations branch. 2 years, and then you'll move to the National Maritime College to get the marine spin on things. You'll take up an appointment as Ship's Marine Engineering Officer, probably the most important appointment on board, because the engineers are the ones who keep the ship going. I obviously wouldn't let my ops colleagues hear me say that, but yeah, they will probably be the most important on board, because an engineer is basically how the ships run, and everything, the heart of the ship, the pulse, the air, the life of the ship. Like this includes things like the lighting, the engines, the generator, the actual physical structure on board of the ship to keep things safe, keep things watertight, literally, the auxiliary machinery, heating systems, things like refrigeration, even down to things like air conditioning. Like I've been on a ship before where we lost the air conditioning for 2 days, and it heats up a lot, and it's not a very enjoyable place to be, so it's extremely important.
I'm going to talk to you today just briefly about the Air Corps, some of the roles we carry out, and also 2 of the different career paths that you can take within the Air Corps itself. So first, the Air Corps roles. The Air Corps is the air arm of the Irish Defence Forces, and its responsibilities are not complete, but include maritime defence. So in this case, we'll be working very closely alongside our naval colleagues and coordinating with them as to what areas of patrol, what different things to carry out. And then we've also worked closely with the Army and SOFs, so Special Operation Forces, which in Ireland's case is the Army Ranger Wing. So we work closely with them in carrying out different roles as needed, such as fast roping exercises and any other quick response that the Ranger Wing require. As I said, we work closely with the Naval Service as well in relation to maritime defence, and also we supply the pilots for the Garda Air Support Unit. In the Garda Air Support Unit, we currently operate 3 aircraft, so 2 EC-135 helicopters, and also a Pratt & Whitney, or correction, Norman Defender, Brit Norman Defender. So we supply the pilots for the Garda Air Support, but also we supply the maintenance for the likes of the Defender as well. Other roles we carry out, such as with the CASA aircraft, it's a maritime patrol aircraft, but it can also be used in an air ambulance role. And we have also in number 3 operations wing, which I'll talk about shortly, is the A3 or the AW139, which is another utility helicopter which we use permanently based in Athlone at a detachment for emergency air ambulance. This service is on 365 days a year, 12 hours a day, so it can respond to anywhere in the country, which is why it's in Athlone, very central part of the country. We also carry out various different search and rescue operations. We're working with alongside the Coast Guard and also the Navy, and we also provide top cover and also any logistic roles. So last year, just before Christmas, we carried out a resupply over to Lebanon to resupply our Army colleagues that are over there. So just having a quick look then at the Air Corps cadetship and ultimately leading on to becoming a pilot in the Air Corps. We, along with the Navy and the Army, we're going to do the DFTC at the start in the Curragh, and we'll stay there for between 9 and 10 months. and after that we come back to Baldonnel, and then once we're back in Baldonnel is when we begin our wings course. And the first part of that wings course is carrying out ground school. In the ground school we cover the EASA ATPL syllabus, all 14 subjects, but alongside having to complete the external exams with Irish Aviation Authority, we also complete in-house as well. So whereas airline pilots may have 14 exams, we'll have 28. Roughly, all in all, this will last roughly between 11 and 12 months. From there then, once you're successful at this stage, we move on to hypoxia and anti-G training. And for this, we went to Sweden, my class, early last year. So once over in Sweden, we completed hypoxia training, which is where your body gets starved of oxygen. So it teaches you to learn to recognise symptoms for in case you're operating at high altitude and there's an issue with the aircraft. I know exactly how I know I'm feeling, symptoms of it and what to recognise. Then you go into anti-G training, which is where you are put into your taught anti-G training manoeuvre. So in this case, we were brought up to 7G, which puts your body under a fair bit of pressure, and you're taught different ways to stop you. It's called G-lock. So it's stop you blacking out and passing out and causing the aircraft to go into an unsafe situation. So you're taught different ways to restrain yourself. You're also taught the use of the G-shoe, which we use on the aircraft pictured on the right, which is called the PC-9. So this aircraft is one we use predominantly for training pilots, and it can pull up to 8G. Then, once you're successful at this stage, you go on to your survival training, which is carried out at both land and at sea. So at sea, we do 2 weeks sea survival, and then culminates in an exercise off the Irish Sea, where you survive out for a couple of hours and you're rescued by one of our helicopters. And then the land aspect is you culminates in an exercise for you spend four days out on either the Wicklow Hills or Sleeve Blue Mountains with nothing but the clothes on your back. It's very pushes you, but it's very, very enjoyable. The flying phase then is where you start the real kind of fun stuff, as I like to call it. This is where you learn the basics of how to fly. You're taught from 0 hours up to completion of the training. You're taught the basics. You're taught aerobatics, so you're taught how to do the likes of the Galway Air Show, Bray Air Show. You may have seen us carrying out formation flying over Crow Park for the All-Ireland. From there then you're brought on to the more advanced flying, which is instrument flying. So this is flying in, unlike today, conditions when the cloud is on the ground. You can't see, and you're flying basically off everything inside, so we call it heads-in flying. And then you're also taught formation flying towards the end of the course as well. So you're flying within 10 feet of another aircraft at 400 miles an hour, which is pretty cool. It's pretty exciting as well. And after this, if you're successful in all this, you're awarded your military pilot wings, and also your commission as an officer in the Defence Force itself and in the Air Corps. And you'll go on then to take up a different role depending on what one you choose. So the progression then is you can go into number 1 wing ops, which is where I am, flying the CASA Maritime Patrol aircraft, which is the picture on the right. Or you can go into number 3 wing ops, which is mainly helicopters. So you'll start out on the 135 and complete a heli conversion course, which brings you from fixed wing over to helicopter status. From there then you're brought on to the 139, and again, such as Paul, who's down the stand below, downstairs, he is a member of EAS, so he's based in Athlone at the minute, and he carries out air ambulance operations as required. And we're just so happened at the end of last week, there's a very good example of both of these units working very closely together. Paul was actually flying the operation. He picked up a patient here in Galway University Hospital, brought him back to Baldonnel. So the flight time, all in all, was 30 minutes from here to Baldonnel. I done that this morning. It took me 2 hours by car. So once we arrived in Baldonnel, there was the Learjet, which is also the government jet, as some people know it as. The Learjet was there, waiting to go, fueled up, crew ready, and the patient was transferred onto the Learjet and shipped over to Newcastle, where he underwent a lung transplant, which was carried out successfully. The other option is where you stay in FTS, which is the flight and training school, where you complete your cadet training, and from there you can go on and do flying instructors course. So where you actually switch roles and you become the instructor and you're teaching new pilots how to fly. Also there, you can go on and do advanced formation flying, which includes, the likes for the next picture, doing aerobatics as a formation. So you're not just worried about yourself and what you're doing, you're also worried about the two fellas either side of you, still less than 10 feet away from you. So the other option is to go into the Air Corps along with General Service, which is very like the Army selection and training as well. We also have the Aircraft Technician Scheme. So this is where you do 6 months training. You'll then go on to do complete technical training of 12 subjects. Some of them are including aircraft systems, aircraft structures, avionics and power plant. You do on-the-job and off-the-job training. On-the-job is roughly 18 months in total, and on-the-job or off-the-job is roughly about 2 years. So all in all, it takes about 4 years to complete the training. Then you want to do specialise, so you'll either specialise in aircraft structures and management, or you'll go on and become an avionics technician. And you will also then go on to complete the PC9M type course, where you'll work closely with FTS. That's probably where the norm is that you go after you complete your training, just to build up your experience and get you more hands-on with the different aircraft.
No problem. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Army. Again, everything I said already today was kind of in general about the three services, so this is specific to what I do. So again, the Army roles: to defend the state against armed aggression, this being a contingency, and preparation for its implementation will depend on ongoing assessment, be it prisoner escorts or assisting the Gardaí in searches, etc. We also work in what's called aid to the civil authority, so the likes here in Galway with the flooding and stuff, when we're deployed out for that, it's when we're assisting the county councils and individuals when they need extra manpower as well also. Also, we participate in multinational peace support operations. As I mentioned already, currently we're in UNIFIL, which is in southern Lebanon, and we're in UNDOF as well. UNIFIL being our biggest troop contribution. We're one of the biggest troop contributing nations over there, with over 600 personnel on the ground. And then in UNDOF, we provide quick reaction force and armour capability for the entire UNDOF mission. So we have up to 120 people there. So general service recruitment for the Army. So all soldiers within the organisation, sailors and aircrew, undergo 15 weeks of basic soldering skills. This will give them the prerequisite requirements to conduct operations at home and overseas, but it also allows them to go on and specialise a little bit more thereafter. Recruits are required to complete their training anywhere within the country, depending on recruitment numbers and where and when the next recruit class will be undertaken. So any of our locations throughout the country, pretty much all the large towns and cities, we have locations in. Okay, so once your basic recruitment is finished, you will then be allowed to specialise in certain areas. So again, the organisation very much promotes lifelong learning, and once you enter the organisation, you're not just finished once you've completed basic training. You are expected and required to undergo further training. Again, in the last couple of years, our career courses have become accredited by Carlow Institute of Technology, which will mean that anyone who progresses throughout their Army career will be offered a level 6 and level 7 qualification, depending on how far and how long they engage with the organisation. On the screen there are some of the specialities that people can specialise in, including snipers, survival instructors, physical training instructors, Molloy drivers, etc. What the Army also then offers is general service TTS schemes. So again, as mentioned already, when overseas, we need to be able to be self-sufficient, so we need all the people on the screen fully trained and operational as well. So finally then, an officer cadet in the Army, so we'll undergo 15 months of training in the DFTC, the Curragh camp for most people here, before taking up an operational appointment in Permanent Defence Forces. So this is what I would have undergone. Within that time, we spend our 3 months doing our basic recruit training and then work on leadership skills and aspects of that, up to the point where you should be able to, by the end of training, deploy overseas and be in charge of up to 30 personnel. After completing officer training, cadets are then commissioned to a service corps, and from that then they can go on and serve at Defence Force headquarters level or another specialist niche course as well, such as the military police. What's important to know is school leavers and non-graduate officers will be offered the opportunity to undertake a level 8 degree somewhere within the country once it's deemed appropriate to the needs of the organisation. A lot of people who are from Galway will be aware of the USAC programme here in Galway, and a lot of our officers undergo a level 8 degree here in NUIG. And at some stage in their career, an Army officer can expect to serve overseas. It is one of the requirements of being within the organisation. So further information can be found on our website, military.ie, which is its own unique careers portal, which will outline all the roles and responsibilities and jobs expected in the organisation. Our Facebook page, Defence Forces Ireland, or Óg na hÉireann, YouTube, and we have our own dedicated channel, and then Twitter at Defence Forces. And also we're downstairs till 1600 as well. So if anyone has any questions, we'll take them to the side and we'll let the gentleman to my right set up there.